General, the governor has instructed you to check everyone entering the island of Puerto Rico through the airports. Where do you stand in the process of getting that ready and starting to do it?
David, we have the initial equipment that is required to conduct this mission. It's good to clarify that our units, table of allowance and equipment, are not prepared for this mission. We can conduct the mission, but we didn't have the initial equipment, so that took us a little bit of time to build up the equipment. Tomorrow we will be conducting training to ensure that everyone is in sync with the operation that we're going to start conducting on Monday.
Okay, so the equipment you're talking about specifically that you didn't have enough of were thermometers and hazmat type of gear, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Because we have a limited inventory on those. We have two specialized units that have that type of equipment. Their mission is not to direct it to this mission, but they certainly can conduct it. We have a unit which is a CERP, it's about 200 soldiers and airmen, composed of a medical element of 60 airmen, and they do have all that equipment because some of their missions is to react to a chemical, biological, or nuclear type of incident, as well as any other domestic support emergency.
Okay, which entry points in Puerto Rico will your men and women be manning to check people?
We're going to initiate in coordination with the federal and state agencies at the International Airport in San Juan, Luis Muñoz Marin Airport. We also going to conduct the same mission at Ceiba, Aguadilla, Ponce, and Isla Grande, which is here. There's a small airport near the old San Juan.
Okay. And what will the process look like? Will every single passenger who enters the island be checked? And what will those checks involve?
That's the intent, David. Basically, our personnel will be conducting a temperature check of every passengers, and those passengers that shows the symptoms of COVID-19 and the temperature is over 100.3. They will be directed to a medical area where we're going to conduct a more extensive medical review or examination, a triage, sort of speaking. And personnel that are showing the symptoms of COVID-19, the doctors have to make a decision. Our priority of effort are for people over 60 because their immune system is more fragile. So that personnel will be directed to a hospital, a centralized hospital that we have identified just for these purposes, that has 90 secure rooms or isolated rooms for this condition, and will be directed to the hospital for additional examination of that. Those patients that they show the symptoms, but they can be quarantined at their home, they will be directed home and directed to stay at home for a quarantine of 15 days, monitored by their personal doctors.
So to be
family doctors.
So to be specific, every single person getting off an airplane will have to undergo this testing. They can't opt out and say, no, I don't want to be tested.
That's the mission. And that's why we spent the whole day yesterday with the federal authorities, meaning CBP, CDC, and the administrators of the airport, so we can coordinate the movement of passengers coming into Puerto Rico. Not only local passengers coming from the states, but as well as passengers coming international flights.
And of course, now we have the president's travel ban in effect, which includes many countries in Europe. There was a plane that actually arrived from Spain last night at 10 o'clock.
Correct.
And so now planes from Spain will not be allowed under the new travel ban.
Unless they are bringing U.S. citizens.
Correct. So let me ask you, is there anything else I'm leaving out that you can add specifically when it comes to checking people?
No, just to tell the people that are listening, this is a personal health issue that everyone should be concerned and responsible for it. We need to take care of ourselves, take all necessary measures. Wash your hands, 20 seconds, wash hands completely. Make sure we keep an eye on our elderly people, on our young, our kids, our babies, to ensure if you feel sick, stay at home. Call an emergency line that is there to support you and provide you with medical advice how to proceed. And I think it's a responsibility of everyone.
All right, specifically, let's talk about preparation. Um, are you having conversations about what to do from a military point of view if the hospital private system or government run hospitals become overrun to the point where they are past capacity? Do you have the ability presently to open field hospitals that are run by the military?
Yes, David, and we did. Since we were activated in support of the earthquakes that we on the 6th of January and 7th of January, we established these base camps to the south and southwest of the island with a capacity for 1,500. And within those base camps, we established a medical facility with all the medical support to include light surgery if required. So we have 5 medical facilities that we can establish. Before just talking to you, I was on a teleconference with General Lingel and all 54 states and territories. And exactly what you just asked me, it was brought to conversation. So every state and territory is already looking into that possibility and establishing possible courses of action, how to handle this situation proactively.
Okay, so let's talk about the 5 hospitals. I've seen them. They were well run, they were robust, they were big down in the South. As the population of people who needed that has dwindled dramatically, according to you, in the South, um,
Yes.
are you going to right now move those camps up to the north? Are you going to keep like are you moving pieces of this in place around the island to get ready? And where might they be?
We are not moving as we speak, but that's a possible course of action that we are considering. As you well know, there was a Navy installation toward the northeast of the island. It was Roosevelt Roads. Yesterday, my engineer personnel were inspecting their facilities. They have not been used for quite a few years. So we are looking into those facilities if that's a possibility so we can move the people that become infected by this virus and certainly be a possible course of action for a large number of people so we can group them and kind of keep an eye so to avoid spreading of this virus around the whole island.
If that were to come to pass, what tell me about what that would look like. How many beds could you move? How big is that area? That seems like a good place to isolate people, but you have a very vulnerable ferry system there that is unreliable, and just getting people to Roosevelt Roads might be a real challenge.
Correct. The challenge will be coming from Vieques and Culebras, but it will be no challenge coming from the other 76 cities and towns. It's being in Puerto Rico because it's mainly highways and secondary roads. At the Roosevelt Roads used to be a officer basic quarters, brand new buildings that were, and when you go there, you still see the furniture wrap up with the plastic. So very good furniture that's still there that we can utilize. So we are working, my engineers are working on that plan to develop the amount and the capacity. I cannot give you exact number right now, but it's a large installation that we can accommodate. And we can also establish a base camp as we did toward the south of the island. And the base camps that we established, each one of them had a capacity for 1,500 people. And we established 5 of them, which provided us a large number of capacity.
Okay, so if I'm understanding you correctly, you could set up base camps in various places around the island, 1,500 times 5, right? So we're talking 6, 7,000, maybe close to 8,000 people.
Yes.
And then you could set up Roosevelt Roads, this former Navy installation, which is, how expansive is that? How many acres are we talking?
Oh, wow, David. the not do not know the exact amount of the installation, but just to give you an idea, it was a large installation because it was a complete fleet station there, over 15,000 employees. So it's a very
Gotcha.
large piece of
Gotcha.
land.
Okay, well, that would be significant, but I think it's good for people to know right now that you at least are looking into that and that plans are being made, because the concern here is, and not just the government of Puerto Rico, but the concern is every state level government not doing enough to prepare right now.
But
So,
for the benefit of the people that are listening, I
yes,
just mentioned that I just finished a teleconference with all 54 states and territories adjutant generals, and we
yeah.
are exactly looking into these possible course of action in their respective states.
Good. This is very interesting, and I hope that you will follow up with me because, as I said to you when we were off camera, I think delivering information that can be frightening and delivering it with the right tone is very important. And the reason I was pestering your public affairs officer yesterday was to get you on here as quickly as possible in order to let people know what's being done now to prepare, to get ready. So I appreciate the time. The last word is yours. Is there anything else you'd like to say that I didn't add?
No, Dave, I fully concur with your thought. I firmly believe that a well-informed people or population is more effective, and everyone will come together and cooperate as a unit of force. Puerto Rico has shown, people of Puerto Rico has shown that uh, we are very survival type of people. We are very resilient. We have experienced Irma, Maria. We have experienced the earthquake. Now we are facing COVID-19, and the commitment of the men and women in uniform is unbreakable. And we will support our people as well as other states and territories. And we are here to support. And we will get out of this one stronger than ever.
Let me ask you. Let me ask you one more question. I remember the four-star general, General Jeffrey Buchanan, who oversaw the federal response after Maria, telling me in a very revealing, reflective interview, he said, "David, as I look back, could I have parachuted men out of planes in the aftermath of Maria like I did in Iraq?" He said, "Yeah, I could have, and maybe I should have." I tell you that story only to ask you this question. Are you having conversations with the federal government just in case this turns into a situation where the island's government is overwhelmed, the medical hospital infrastructure is overwhelmed, you don't have enough medical personnel to tend to the people? Are you having communications with the federal government to trust that they may get there sooner
Yes.
and in a larger response than we saw after Maria?
Yes. The answer is yes, David. And I was the deputy for General Buchanan. He was my boss during the initial phase. Then he went back to Army North in San Antonio, and I became the general officer in charge of the emergency. Two lines of communications. One line is the National Guard Bureau with General Lingel, which I just finished a teleconference with him to identify the strength, but as well as the requirements and the areas that I need support on that line of on that chain of command on the National Guard Bureau. But I'm also in communication with Lieutenant General Laura Richardson. General Richardson is General Buchanan's replacement, and she commands Army North, and Army North falls under Northcom, and they are the ones who handles domestic support nationwide, U.S. nationwide, and its territories. So I'm in direct communication with General Richardson to provide her and keep her informed of our efforts and possible requirements. Possibility is to require or request the assistance of the Comfort. Comfort is the Navy ship that is a full hospital. That's a possibility that we have talked about it.
Okay, that's very important because you remember the comfort came in arguably later than it should, and it wasn't used properly because you remember the miscommunication where it was the governor who was the one who said went on the ship, whereas it should have been handled differently according to what we now know in conversation. So that's very interesting that you've already talked about potentially calling in the comfort should it rise to that level. You know, General, it's not lost on me that what makes this so different than Maria in terms of urgency is that we're talking about something that is contagious here, right? Mm-hmm. So in evacuating patients from Maria, those were not patients that were contagious and had the possibility of infecting others as you treated or evacuated them.
Right. Certainly.
So
we'll continue to maintain communication with both National Guard Bureau, Army North, to identify our requirements, and we'll continue to develop plans if required, because it's a larger number of people infected by COVID-19. Hopefully, and we'll keep everything on God's hand. We'll maintain the number that actually right now the number is 3 people positively identified with COVID-19.
Yeah, and listen, I thank you for taking the time. And again, for everyone who's watching, these questions are simply to talk about preparation, because the island should have been better prepared for Maria and Irma, and we all know that. And so the question is, what's being done now? So these conversations are not meant to scare people. They're meant to say what's being done in the what if scenario. So General, you always have an open line with me because you are in a very critical position and people need to hear from it. So thank you for being available. I will call on you again, and please come to me anytime if you have something that you want to share with folks.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you to all the people that are listening for the opportunity to serve.
Absolutely. Thank you, General, so much. I appreciate it. Good to talk to you.
Thank you, Dave.